The moon, to me, it's the thing that connects me together with all the other humans in my life. I remember being a little kid lying in bed at night and just looking out at the moon in whatever phase it was in, and I was thinking, man, my friends that live like 20 miles away, they can probably look out and see that same exact moon. And then when I was in the Navy and I would look out at the moon and I'd be halfway around the planet, I would think, man, my brother can see that moon where he is and he's halfway around the planet from where I am. To me, it's a connection of life on Earth. We can all look up and see that moon, and it's always changing. The moon is never the same 2 days in a row. I love that. My name is Reid Wiseman. I'm the commander of NASA's Artemis II mission around the moon. I grew up in a little town just north of Baltimore, Maryland, about 20 miles north of the city. There was a National Guard base nearby my house, and there were A-10 aircraft that would fly over every now and then. I just would look up at them and be like, man, I want to be up there. I want to go do that. And then my brother went to the Naval Academy, and I would go every year and watch the Blue Angels fly during commencement, and that just started to grow and grow and grow. For a while, I wanted to join the Air Force, and then I realized Navy flies as well, and they fly from ships in the middle of the ocean, and that was it, like, done deal for me. That is exactly what I wanted to do for my career. Flying is freedom to me, especially when you're in a jet aircraft coming off of an aircraft carrier in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. Nearest land is over 1,500 miles away. So when you come off of that aircraft carrier, you are truly just alone with yourself out there. It is a magical experience to be out there all by yourself in an aircraft over the Pacific. It's free. I think anybody who accomplishes something that they set their mind out to, there's no one thing that does it for them. It's a combination of everything. I mean, the way my parents raised me, the way my brother and I, the way our relationship developed over time, my friends, being in the marching band, going to college, setting my own course, learning how to live on my own, being mentored along the way, being, kept on the path to success, but being given the freedom to, make excursions and fail every now and then and regroup and carry on. I think all those things come together in the end to get you where you are. I've had to overcome, I'm a human being. I've had to overcome a lot of fears. I'm pretty scared of heights. I joked about that on the International Space Station, but it turns out I'm only scared like at the edge of a building. When you're up on the International Space Station, even though you're 250 miles up, I never had that feeling of falling or that I was, at risk up there. I just kind of loved the feeling of floating and looking down at Earth. There have been challenges all throughout my life. By far, the biggest challenge was losing my wife in 2020 to cancer and now raising two daughters who are grown up now, but that's been the biggest challenge by far I've ever had to face. It is not easy. Being an only parent, trying to work a full-time job, and raising two kids is something that I think about every single day. I'm very proud of the work I've done. I haven't always done it well, but I've always shown up and tried as hard as I possibly can.
I do wonder what it's going to be like when we are really far from Earth and can see it. The sensation of being so far away from everything that you know. I had that sensation on the space station the first time I got to sit in the cupola for a really long time. So I can only imagine what that's going to be like from 200,000 plus miles away. My name is Victor Glover, and I'm the pilot for NASA's Artemis II mission around the moon. When I was in 4th grade, I was 10 years old. And that's when the Challenger accident happened. And it helped me understand how the general public felt about the astronaut corps, right? Like, these are the people that we want to be. And that just gave me an easy thing to strive toward. The biggest fear that I've had to overcome in my life is doubting myself. Going to college when no one in my family had gone to college was a huge risk. I had more confidence in my athletic ability than in my academic abilities. I could play football with those college students that I saw on TV, but my classmates that I saw in the lab and around the University Union, I didn't know if I had what they had. I think addressing that self-doubt was a part of, swinging for the fence and trying to go get an engineering degree, not just go to college, but get an engineering degree and then go do something challenging and technical like flying. Apollo is known for sending humans to the moon. Artemis has an opportunity to continue the Apollo story, but I actually think it's important for this story to stand on its own. Artemis is a new program, and we're trying to do new things. And it's great to compare and contrast. When you look at our spaceship, you can see parts that were designed, built, and integrated in another country. When you look at our crew, you see that our crew is international. There are also men and women. And I just think that that comparing and contrasting makes the story even richer. The piloting role specifically, I will have an hour and a half or so where I get to fly the spacecraft by hand. We haven't flown that many spaceships. And so the ability to fly one actually in space on a test mission is just a really unique opportunity. I can't tell you how I'm gonna feel when we fly by the moon and see the moon up close and the Earth from 250,000 miles away, but I don't use the word excited because I'm focused. You know, what we do, this is very serious and it's very risky, and we are all intimately familiar with that risk. And so if we go out there and we're successful and we can pass that baton on to Artemis II, that's something to really be excited about.
I tell a story, which is one that my dad told me before the Apollo missions when he was just a very little boy. He was looking up at the moon with his mom, and his mom said to him, "Don't worry, Ronnie, we'll never get there." Fast forward maybe 70 years later, it's his daughter that's actually going there. And I think that long arc is something that we can all learn from. The idea that the seemingly impossible becomes possible if you just believe in it and are willing to work hard and come together to achieve it. My name is Christina Cook, and I'm a mission specialist for NASA's Artemis II mission around the moon. When I look back on my dreams as a kid, I definitely never thought I would actually get here. I was very pragmatic. Even though I'm a dreamer, I knew that the odds were way against me again, so I might as well do something I'm loving in the meantime. I definitely loved science and math in school and, did pretty well in those things, but I also loved being active. I was always outside. I loved things that made me feel small. I loved looking at the night sky, oftentimes between the pine tree branches, or I loved the ocean. North Carolina also has mountains, and when we go there, I just loved the vastness of all of those things. I loved how they made me feel and what they made me think about, and the vastness of the universe and how much out there was to learn. I'm drawn to exploring. I'm drawn to challenges that involve both mental and physical, and I'd much rather be solving problems wearing a whole lot of equipment and in a harsh environment, and that's just something I've carried with me ever since I was a kid. Thinking about the fears or challenges that I've had to overcome, there are just so many. I mean, basically, that has been the journey. I always say to people, do what scares you, and that means I have to follow my own advice. So doing what scares me meant getting on a plane and going to the Antarctic, getting on a plane and going to study abroad in Ghana, applying to become an astronaut, opening the EVA hatch in the airlock and going out of it into the darkness, strapping myself onto a rocket. And so for me, I think that no matter what the challenge, recognizing that if people believe in you and you believe they believe in you, the challenges seem always a little bit easier. To me, the moon, it represents history. It is a witness plate. Everything that's ever happened to the moon is still written on the moon. Every single person has looked at the moon their entire lives. We see the same moon. That's something really special. It's just the epitome of a symbol of something that's in each of our hearts, but that's also represents exploration and reaching.
I have this very distinct memory of seeing an image of an astronaut standing on the moon. It's burnt in my brain because I went back to it so many times in my childhood, and I would look at that image, and I know it had a huge impact on me that humans had walked on the moon. My name is Colonel Jeremy Hansen. I'm an astronaut with the Canadian Space Agency, and I'm a mission specialist on NASA's Artemis II mission around the moon. My elementary school years, I grew up on a farm outside of London, Ontario. I spent as much time as I could with my dad on the farm. I learned the value of hard work, for example. If I wanted to go to work with Dad, it was going to be a long day, and I was going to have to not complain, or I wasn't going to get to go the next day. I had a treehouse. I had a vivid imagination, And I changed my treehouse into a spaceship. I made all these dials and controls. I had circuit breakers for switches that I found in the barn, and I was exploring space in my imagination. The most important thing I did to get to where I wanted to go in life, which was flying fighter jets and eventually becoming an astronaut, is I shared those desires with other people. And it turns out, just like you don't go to the moon on your own, if you could, I would have done it a long time ago in my treehouse as a kid, you have to go as a team. I think the biggest impediment to achieving my goals was, of course, myself. And I think that's a common human experience. There are many times where just little things would get in my way, and my immediate interpretation of that was, well, now that goal is out the window. You know, people must have lifted me back up, and somewhere in the back of my head, that persistence came through. And I think that's a common human experience, to doubt ourselves. I've come to this, I guess, realization that I believe that we all have gifts to contribute, and the goal is to figure out how to use your energy towards adding positively to humanity's existence on this planet. But I love it when humanity sets big goals, like sending humans to the surface of the moon with an eye to eventually going to Mars, because when we do that, we can bring together genius from not just even in one country, but around the world. I've also learned from my indigenous mentors that they refer to the moon as Grandmother Moon. So you've probably heard of Mother Earth. They use Grandmother Moon because Grandmother Moon is responsible for the water in their community, just like the moon moves the water around the planet, affects the tides. And I think that's a really beautiful thing for us as we go back to the moon, to think about all the different cultures around the world and how they view the moon differently. And that's really neat because we all share that same moon in the night sky.